Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Youthman. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. This video is going to be a little bit different than my standard home theater tips, tours, and reviews. Today I'm going to be talking more on a tech side of some of the equipment that I use in my videos that I make here on YouTube. Now, in a lot of my product reviews, as well as in my home theater tours, I use a 3-axis gimbal from DJI. It's a DJI Ronin S. I really love my Ronin S, but as I begin to do more traveling now, doing home theater tours, as well as getting ready for events like CEDIA and Axpona, I wanted to find something that's a little bit more compact, easier to pack, maybe in a backpack, but would still provide good, smooth, fluid motion when I'm filming. So about a month ago, Feiyu reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in reviewing their G6 Max 3-axis gimbal. Looking on their website, it had some things that I was really excited about. You can use their gimbal with a mobile device, you can use it with an action camera like a GoPro, or you can use it with a small mirrorless camera with a short lens. And not only that, it's super affordable. It's about $230 as the time of this video versus my Ronin S, which costs $750 and only will support a large format camera. And to top it off, this thing is super small, very compact, and really lightweight. So needless to say, I was really excited to get it in for review. So in this review of the G6 Max, we'll be taking a look at pretty much a lot of the features of it. I'll show you how to use the different modes, as well as give you some demo footage from the gimbal itself. Now, this video is not sponsored by Feiyu, but they did provide the product for review, and so I'm excited to jump into this and let's see if it might be a good fit for you. Now, the G6 Max comes with a really small carrying case that's well built and very well organized. Inside the box, we have the G6 Max gimbal, a quick release plate, a tripod base, a GoPro adapter, a cell phone adapter, a USB-C charging cable, and various shutter release cables from Fujifilm, Canon, Panasonic, as well as Sony. The G6 Max supports up to 1.4 kilograms or about 3 pounds and retails for $229. Now, the first thing I want to point out is something that I really like that they did with the G6 Max. Here you can see if I move the gimbal around, each one of these 3 axes are locked. So my DJI Ronin does not have that feature, and that's really annoying because when you go to lay it down, all of these arms kind of bang together and it's just not good for the unit. So being able to lock those into place is really, really great. And so to unlock them, all we have to do is take this little slider right here. We're going to pull that one down. So you can see that allows that arm to swivel. On the back side of here, same thing. We're going to push that up to unlock that one. And then there's one more right up here for the 3rd axis. We're going to push that down as well. So now all 3 axes are free to move about. So the next thing we're going to do is take the foot. So this is the tripod base. Just going to screw that in there like that. Open those up. And so now we've got a nice solid base here. So the next thing you want to do is actually lock the bottom 2 axes. So I'm going to push this down and we're just going to spin it around till it locks in place like that. And then this one over here, we're going to turn it sideways like that so that G6 Max is upright. And then we're going to push this one up until that locks into place. So when you're balancing your gimbal, that's the first step. Go ahead and lock those 2 into position. So we're going to be balancing my phone here. So I've got a case on it. So this is pretty simple. It just has spring loaded there. So you're going to attach your phone like this. Now, one thing I found out is because of the case, a lot of times you'll see there's a space right here. So you're just going to have to look at it from a side profile and just kind of get that to where it's flush. If not, what's going to happen is your phone is going to be sitting kind of crooked. The next step, we're going to take this quick release plate. We're going to screw it right into the bottom of this, just like that. Let's put that back on there. It's pretty tight fit. Actually, I wish this was a little bit larger. It's almost like it was meant for a really, really small phone, or maybe just a phone without a case. So if you got a case on there, it may fit a little bit tight. And so now we're going to take this and slide it in here. You'll hear it kind of locks into place, so it can actually come undone. And then there's a little release button here, so if you want to take it off, you'll have to push that release button and slide it off. But we're going to go ahead and slide that on, and I try to put it as close as I can to this edge over here. And then once you get it there, down at the bottom, there's a little latch right here. We're just going to spin that around, and that's going to secure that plate in place. Now, one issue I ran into with the G6 Max is when balancing a cell phone or a mobile device, this top part is not going to balance. And the biggest reason is because we don't have any more room to slide this attachment forward to kind of counterbalance it. You can see it's kind of top heavy, so it's wanting to fall this way. So to counterbalance that, this would have to be a bigger plate, and it just isn't big enough. The good news is I contacted Feiyu, and they said that's absolutely no problem. It will not balance on a lot of phones, and that's okay. The biggest thing is that because these motors are plenty strong enough for even a small camera like this right here, it'll have no problem balancing this, so it won't interfere with the function. But just realize, no matter what you do, you're probably not going to be able to balance this unless you purchase a different type of quick release plate there. So to power it on, all we're going to do is press and hold this button here, the power button, and then you'll see the gimbal turns on, and it's now balanced. So the purpose of a gimbal is so that you can move up and down and left and right, and you can see the phone is still in correct horizontal position. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the features of the G6 Max, and we'll start here by looking at the OLED display. The OLED screen displays things like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi connection, battery level, as well as various shooting modes. So by default, the G6 Max is in HF mode, which is a horizontal mode. So what this means is we're able to pan left and right by just twisting our wrist, and that'll allow the camera to make smooth pans to the left and smooth pans to the right. But as you can see, if I lean it forward, the phone still stays upright. If we press this button once, it'll change from HF to LK. The LK is a lock mode. Now the lock mode does just what it sounds like. It locks the phone or your GoPro or your mirrorless camera in the same position regardless of how you move the gimbal. So I can even spin around in a 360, and as you see here, the phone still maintains the position of pointing forward. If we press the button twice, it'll change to TF, which is tilt mode. Now in tilt mode, if I lean the gimbal forward, you can see it's going to pan down. If I lean the gimbal back, it's going to pan up. Now there's one final mode. To access that, we're going to triple tap this button, and that'll change it to AF, which is all follow mode. Now in all follow mode, all three of the axes are active. So we can tilt it forward, backward, lean it to the side, left and right, or tilt up and down, and the gimbal will follow. Now if we turn the unit around, you'll see a trigger here. So let's just say, for instance, we've got this tilted up. If I double tap on the trigger, it'll return it to the default position. Now if we triple tap, that's going to turn it around, and so now you're in selfie mode. So if you enjoy vlogging and you want to get some content with you walking and having the camera in front of you, you can do it that way, and then to return back, double tap, and it'll put it back at the forward position. Now if we take a closer look here, we've got a 1/4 inch 20 thread, as well as one on this side that allows you to attach things like maybe a microphone or even an external display. Once again, here's your power button. If you were to connect the camera to this USB-C port in the front, and if it syncs up with it, then you can actually switch between camera and your record button as far as your video mode. And then right inside of this little flap here, that is your USB charging connection. Now we also have a joystick here that we can move to the left, and you can see the gimbal will swivel around. Press it to the right and it'll move to the right. And then if I push down, it's going to aim down. And if I press up, it's going to angle up. Now, certain devices can be attached to the gimbal using the included cables, and that would give you additional functionality. So you could press the left button here, and that would start and stop either the record or take a photo. Now, on the left side is a multifunction knob. So if I turn the knob, you can see that we are tilting the camera forward and backwards. If I press one time, it will change to pan control. So now if I turn the knob, we can see it's panning left and right. Press it again, and it'll change to roll, which will allow you to tilt left and right. Now this is a really great feature because sometimes the gimbal over time might kind of get a little bit off its angle on the roll, and so you can quickly come into here and adjust that and get it lined up just right. Press it one more time and we're back to tilt control. Now you can program the multifunction knob in the app to have different functionality, and so those options you can access within the Feiyu app. Now there's also additional options you can access on the OLED display by pressing once on the power button. When you press that, we have three options here. We've got Inception Mode, we've got Portrait Mode, as well as Time-Lapse. So if we wanted to go into Inception Mode, we would take the joystick and hit to the right. And as you can see, the camera is now facing up. And then what we can do is press right again if we wanted it to turn to the right, or we can come down if we wanted it to turn to the left, or if we want it to just be on a continuous roll, we could go to this bottom, and whichever one you're ready to do, you just push to the right and it will begin spinning. Now in Inception Mode, you can get some really cool shots of products, or maybe you're walking down a street and you want to see that spiral. So no matter how I do this, you can see this is now going to spin in what we call Inception Mode. So that's a pretty cool feature. I could see this would be a really cool shot. Maybe you're underneath a staircase, like a spiral staircase, and you could put the camera down and have it film in a spiral looking up. So that would be kind of cool, maybe in a lighthouse or something like that. And so to stop that, all we have to do is press to the left and it'll go back to regular mode. The next option is Portrait Mode. So what you're going to do with this is go ahead and lean it down. Then we're going to pull down on the joystick and then hit to the right to select it. And now it's going to switch the orientation vertically. Now, unfortunately, just the way that a gimbal is designed, you can't change it to this vertical mode like for your TikTok videos and stuff and have the camera angled up. As you can see right now, it's going like, what are you trying to do? It's wanting to angle that upward. So it's not really going to work that way. So apparently it's meant to film like this, which I don't really see a whole lot of use for, but maybe if you're filming and you just want that orientation vertical, you know, you could grab it like this and film as such. To exit, we just push to the left and then it returns back to its normal position. So unfortunately, in this position, you can't really see what it says. It says click the something over button to exit. So I'm not sure what that is, so I'm going to hit the power button and that's going to exit. Now the third option down at the bottom is time lapse, and I haven't really played with that a whole lot. So if you wanted to have this move over a period of time, maybe you want it to start kind of angled down and then end angled up, maybe at the sky, and it'll do that over, let's say, 5 seconds or 10 seconds, then you can set that. So I believe that you have to do that within the app. So if you were to use the app, you're gonna have a lot easier time in doing that. The problem is I have my phone on here, and so adjusting that inside the app makes it a lot more difficult. It'd be easier if I had the GoPro on there, or maybe a mirrorless camera or a small camera like this. Then I could be accessing that information on my phone and in the app, and makes it a little bit easier. So to exit that, we're just gonna hit the power button. Now, if we press the power button one more time, it takes us to another menu, and here we can access the motor setup, knob setup, as well as your camera setup. And there's just a few options there. You can change the tilt motor strength, the pan motor strength, the roll motor strength. If we back up using the power button once, we can come down to knob setup, and that's going to control the knob sensitivity. And then the last option is a camera setup, and so that's how you would sync your camera to the gimbal itself. All right, so now we have the DSLR on here. You could put a small lightweight mirrorless camera with a short lens as well. So kind of the same thing. We're going to lock this bottom, lock this side, and then we're going to loosen this screw. And since it's falling forward, we need to slide this camera back. So we're just going to loosen it, slide it back a little bit. And that looks pretty balanced right there. I'm just going to straighten it up a little bit. So we're going to push it forward just a tad. So about right there. Tighten that down. So see, now it wants to fall backwards. So this is probably the hardest part with any gimbal, is just kind of finding that happy medium. And sometimes even just tightening down the screw can change the balance on it. So it's just a matter of making some really, really fine adjustments. And there we have it balanced. So then again, we would unlock this one. We can see now this camera is wanting to lean all the way to the left. So that means we need to move this arm to the right. So we'll loosen it, slide it to the right. Some more. Probably about right there. Tighten that down. And so what you'll find is you kind of have to just play with it. And you'll probably have to go, so see like this one, see how it's spinning quite crazily? You don't want that. That's not going to be very balanced. And so this one to me is always the hardest to balance. So it's wanting to turn to the left. So I'm going to loosen this and slide it back a little bit. And I always just have to play with it to see what works. Okay, so see, now that's a lot better. So now these are tightened down. We're going to turn on the power. And there we go. So see, it doesn't really take that long. It does take a little bit of practice, but this is really, really easy to balance. And because of these locking mechanisms, to me, it makes it much easier to balance than even my Ronin S. So the main reason why I wanted to show you this is because I'm going to open up the app. So of course you'd need to go to your app store or to Google Play and download the Feiyu app. Now what you're going to see is it's going to connect and it automatically finds it. I love that about it. And then check this out. So we got a lot of controls on here. The one thing I would recommend definitely when you download the app is go ahead and update the firmware. It's not real easy to figure out like how you update the firmware. You would think that you would go into the settings, but it's actually this cloud button up here. So you'd click the cloud button and then it says update gimbal firmware. You've got a keyboard firmware that you could possibly update, a Bluetooth, as well as a hub. So just make sure all of those are updated. It's a really easy process. You're going to select it. There's going to be a checkbox for you agree to the terms of service, and then you update it. Once you update it though, make sure that you turn off the gimbal, turn off or exit out of the app, then turn back on the gimbal and then re-enter the app. I found I had to do that several times to get to the latest and greatest firmware and as well as the Bluetooth and the hub update. But as you can see, all of these are up to date. But here's what I wanted to kind of show you is now that we've got a different camera on here, you can see there's a little joystick here. So we can actually control the camera from a mobile device. So you can spin it around to the left, spin it around to the right. So there's just all kinds of things that you can do inside the app. If we were connected, you know, in as far as like a USB cable to the gimbal itself, then there's options that you could take a photo or start recording from your phone. This slider right here controls the tilt. Or I guess that's called the roll, actually, not the tilt. So that's how you would kind of balance your camera. The bad thing is there's not a real good way to kind of put it back to zero. So you just kind of have to get it where you want it. Or as always, we could always double tap and that should bring us back to our reset position. So there's additional features in the app. I'm not going to go through everything, but definitely you can go into the settings. You can update your trigger button settings. So if you were to click on that, right now we've got it set to quick follow. You could change it to lock mode, pan and tilt follow. If we back up, there's also your motor strength. Now, motor strength is actually pretty important. So the heavier the camera, the more you need to kind of crank up those motor strengths. And what I found in my case is if I had the motor strength pretty high because of a heavier camera, I was actually trying to balance my large my mirrorless camera that I'm shooting with now, and this gimbal just can't handle that amount. It's not so much the weight, because the payload was fine and I thought it would work. But what I found out is because my lens is so far, it's basically really long, it causes the gimbal to, tilt down. And the problem is the motors just aren't strong enough to pull that and kind of balance it. Because really the idea with a gimbal is you want that camera to be positioned in such a way so that it balances on its own without the motors working. And then that's going to allow the battery to last longer and the gimbal or the actual motors to work more efficiently. But what I found is if you have these motor strengths, say all the way up, and then you turn it off and put something light on there, like a cell phone or maybe this GoPro, it's gonna go all crazy. The motors are they're trying to work too hard because there's not enough resistance. So there is an option down here that says self-adapt. And so what it'll do is it kind of takes a look at the load and it says, okay, we're going to try to adjust that as best we can. I had decent luck with that, but I found that a lot of times I'm just kind of manually tweaking it until it gets kind of balanced. And so the biggest thing is if you are tilting it forward or backwards or leaning it side to side, if you feel any vibration in that, you're definitely going to need to adjust some of that strength and to get it to where that, it doesn't do that. But there's plenty of other stuff in here. Again, I'm not going to do an extensive tutorial on everything, but you've got different scenes, time lapse. Down at the bottom, remember we had these modes that we can switch between here. HF, LK, if we double tap, we go to TF. If we triple tap, we go to AF. Wherever it's at, 1, 2, 3, there we go, AF. And so those can be changed down here at this mode button settings. So if you wanted your single tap to be something else, you could tap that and it says, okay, what do you want to change that to? So definitely check out the app. It's pretty cool. Definitely got a lot of options there. With the time lapse, again, I mentioned that it's a lot easier to do inside the app than it is on the actual device itself. So in the app down at the bottom, you've got those 4 modes. You've got your lock mode, you've got your horizontal mode, you've got your tilt mode, and then your all follow mode. And so you can easily switch between those. So if we do the lock mode, again, the gimbal kind of stays, or the camera stays pretty much straight forward. Then if we select the second one, that's going to be right there. That allows us to turn left and right. That's horizontal. Then if we do the third one, that's going to allow us to tilt. So if we lean down, the camera tilts down. If we lean back, the camera leans up. And then the last one unlocks pretty much all of them. And so we can lean up, we can lean down, we can roll to the left and right, as you can see there. And then we can turn to the left as well as turn to the right. Well, overall, I really like this gimbal. It's been great. It feels wonderful in the hand. This is like a nice silicone here. The only thing that kind of feels cheap, of course, is this bottom tripod plate. It's literally just made out of a lightweight plastic. And so it just kind of feels a little bit different than the rest because the rest is kind of aluminum or maybe a metal. But overall, I really, really believe that this thing is a really nice build, has a ton of features in it, and it just works and looks great. And the fact that it's super small, I definitely like that because I can fit this in a backpack really easily, or just carried it around. There's no handle on it, but it's just super small compared to, actually, I've been sitting on it the whole time. Compare that to the Ronin S. I mean, you can see that is a big difference in case. I mean, that size is massive. And so this really doesn't fit inside like a backpack very easily. But this, as you can see, is just super, super small. So that's the major benefit of this. You've got versatility. You can do an action camera, a DSLR or a small lightweight mirrorless camera with a short lens, or even a mobile device. Just very, very kind of versatile. Great price. You got $230 versus at the time this was $750. So what it does and the features that it offers, I just think it's a great, great buy for any videographer. Now, overall, I've been extremely impressed with the G6 Max. I believe it offers a lot of performance, some great features, and has a very, very affordable price point at $230. And now that I'm beginning to do more home theater tours and beginning to do some traveling, I'm excited to be able to have something that's a lot more compact and portable. And now that I'm beginning to travel more doing home theater tours, as well as some different trade shows like CEDIA, I'm excited to be able to have something that's a lot more compact and portable and easy to carry. Now, speaking of home theater tours, if you've got an awesome home theater set up and you'd be interested in the possibility of having me come and shoot your home theater tour, make sure you head over to my website, hometheatertours.com. Now, if you're interested in more information on the G6 Max, I'll have a link to it down in the description below. And as always, you guys be blessed, and we'll catch you in the next video.